Okay, today we are going to continue talking about factoring quadratics. Today we're going to talk about a special case where we have some perfect square terms. And so the first thing we're going to talk about when we talk about perfect squares is talk about exactly what they are. Perfect squares are numbers whose factors are the same number. So for example, 4 is a perfect square because 4 is 2 times 2. 9 is a perfect square because 9 is 3 times 3. And we can write this as 2 squared and 3 squared, hence perfect square. 1 is also a perfect square because 1 is 1 squared. 16 is 4 squared. 25 is 5 squared. And we'll do a few more here. Hopefully you recognize these or some of these, and you've done them before. 36 is 6 squared. 49 is 7 squared. 64 is 8 squared. 81 is 9 squared. And we'll stop at 100, which is 10 squared. Of course, we could keep going and going and going and going. These ones are probably the most common we would see. But if we notice that we have two terms, like we do in all of these examples here, if we notice we have two terms and subtraction is between them, we are talking specifically today when we have a difference, that means to subtract. When we have a difference between two perfect square terms, we have a special case and we can do something that maybe is a bit easier than what we've been doing. We're going to have two parentheses. I notice here that I have 25, that's a perfect square. I have 16, that's a perfect square. And then b squared, any variable that is squared, we consider a perfect square because we can square root that and get a non-decimal answer. So when we have these two perfect square terms and we're subtracting them, we have a difference of them, we're going to end up with two parentheses, one with a plus and one with a minus. And then we're just going to take the square root of both terms and put them into each parentheses. So the square root of 25, we're asking ourselves, what number do I multiply by itself to get 25? Well, I multiply 5 times 5 to get 25, so I'm going to put a 5 in both of those. B squared is b times b, and so I'm going to give each of these a b. The square root of 16, I'm asking myself, what number am I multiplying by itself to get 16? Well, I'm multiplying 4 times 4 to get 16, so I'm going to put a 4 in there. And now I have my factors, and that's it. So again, over here, I notice I have a perfect square is 4, n squared is a perfect square, 9 is a perfect square, and I'm subtracting them. So I'm having a parentheses, one with a plus, one with a minus. 4 is the same as 2 squared, so I'm going to put a 2 in there. N squared is n times n. 9 is 3 times 3, so each of these is getting a 3. And there I've factored my difference of two perfect squares. We'll do a couple more. It might not be as easy to recognize when we have 1 in front of a letter, but 1 is a perfect square, a squared is a perfect square, and so is 4. So again, I have a plus and a minus. 1 times 1 is 1, so we're going to put a 1 in both of these. A times a is a squared, so each of these is going to get an a. 4 is 2 times 2, so each of these gets a 2. And we can always check that we have the right answer by multiplying these together. So a times a is a squared. A times negative 2 is negative 2a. Positive 2 times a is positive 2a. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then negative 2a plus 2a, those things cancel out, and I'm left over with a squared minus 4, which is what I started with. And so I know that I have the right factors. You don't have to do that step, but it is a good way to check to make sure you have the right factors. One final one, I have 4, which is a perfect square. X squared is a perfect square. 25 is a perfect square. And I'm subtracting them. So I'm going to get parentheses 1 with a plus, 1 with a minus. 4 is 2 times 2, so these are both getting 2's. X squared is x times x, so these are both getting x's. And 25 is 5 times 5, so these are both getting 5. So basically what I'm doing is I'm breaking up the factors and putting 1 in each parentheses. So I want you to go ahead and try these two. If you get stuck, please do ask for help. So check your answers. If you got one or more of them wrong, please make sure you ask for help before you move on to the practice so we can fix any mistakes that have occurred before you go and practice more. So do make sure you do each of these practice. If you get stuck at any point or need a little bit of help, always feel free to ask. I'm happy to help. Take your time on these, and good luck.